Jagardev, Jai Masters. Everybody is at a different stage of their spiritual growth. But it's not just overall each person at a different stage. They're at a different stage about different things in their spiritual growth. So teachings have to be universal enough to be able to reach everybody at every stage and at the different aspects of each stage. And there are universal truths. But you have a responsibility to be so honest with yourself that you're not abusing teachings to justify not doing what you need to be doing or to justify doing what you don't need to be doing. So there's an honesty that a spiritual teacher can do nothing about other than assuming that if you're coming for truth, you're really sincere and really working for it. You're not looking for some rationalization. So, for example, one of the primary building blocks and tenets of spiritual growth is that where you start is not where you're going to end up. You're going to go through change at all different levels and all different aspects of your being. Are you willing to go through change? I didn't say what change. These are universal premises. Are you willing to go through change? Well, why would I be willing to go through change? Because you're honest enough at looking at yourself and realizing that there are things, even now, no matter what stage you're at, that are problematic. Problematic outside? Well, that's probably what you think, but you'll notice it's problematic inside. You are having problems with things. You can either blame it on the things, or you can understand that you're the one that's having the problem. That is, we're talking about foundational truths that work every single level of wherever you're growing. So you have to be willing to change, and you have to understand that if you're having a problem inside, any problem, and you're blaming it on the outside, you're not going to grow. This is tough. That's tough teaching, but it's the truth. Because what you're doing when you complain about the outside, you're saying, I'm right to have this problem. I'm right to have this problem. Anybody would have this problem. And if you go blog about it, they'll all agree with you. That's the problem with that, is everyone will say, well, oh my God, if I had that happen to me, that would be bothering the heck out of me too. No wonder I can't believe you can even handle that. Okay, in other words, I'm not going to change, and I don't blame you. So I'm telling you, as difficult as it is to understand and digest, spiritual growth is about change. Different aspects of your being will change at different times. But the first part is, do you understand this is about you changing? Period. Not about you justifying or rationalizing or suppressing or anything. It's about, I've matured to the point of understanding that if I want to have a beautiful life, not to mention grow to very high spiritual levels, you set your eyes as high as you can. I want you to set them on the highest, okay? But it doesn't matter. As long as you're setting it higher than where you are now, then you're going to change. And understand that what change means is you're not going to stay the same. That's what change means. There is no change that involves staying the same. So are you willing to look inside yourself and realize that's not what you're going to see later? It's going to change. How? Right now, it's none of your business. If you've never been to New York, and you decide you want to go to New York, and you've never been there or seen pictures or anything, and I say, okay, why do you want to go to New York? I just hear it's a very exciting place and lots of things going on. It's very different than country life. Okay, what do you expect that it's like? You shouldn't answer that. You're just making up concepts and views about what you want it to be and what you don't want it to be, and so on and so forth. You just have to be willing to say, I need to change, and that's a big change. So we'll change. And you go on your journey. It's the same thing here. You're not making up what you think it's going to change into. This is deep. And the higher you go, the more it's that way. You're not making up what you think it's going to change into. You're just understanding that the way it is right now is not how you want it to be. It's not acceptable. It's causing blockages, it's causing problems, it's causing disturbances inside of you. Therefore, some changes need to be made. And that's that. And you'll see how that works, because true growth is not about aspiring to get somewhere you want to get, because that's still you at your current stage deciding what the next day is going to look like. Then you're not changing. You basically, you're a 5-year-old deciding what you want to grow up to be. Okay, have fun, but I sure hope you don't cling to that. Because you're going to go through some changes along the way, and that will not end up being what you want to be, right? But if you just sit there and say, but I told everyone that's what I wanted to be, and I'm embarrassed for it not to be, you screwed your life up. So you have to understand that what it's going to be about to do these changes is about letting go of what's keeping you where you are, not about deciding where you're going. If you let go of where you are, it will change. How will it change? You'll see. Then people question what surrender means. They give it all kinds of weird definitions. That's surrender. I'm surrendering the making up of concepts from where I am now, because where you are now is going to see things a certain way. And you can't see beyond where you are now because you're going to see from where you are now. All right? And you just understand what I need to do is let go or surrender what's keeping me where I am now. Where you think you want to go is not keeping from where you are now. You've never even been there. New York is not keeping you in Florida. But there's something keeping you in Florida. And if you decide I want to just explore something else, you don't do it by making up what you want to explore and then not liking how it's happening. You sit there and say, what's keeping me here? What is binding me? A great spiritual teacher once said, spirituality is never about getting anything. It's always about losing everything. It's not about getting something. It's about letting go of what's keeping you where you are. And if you let go of what's keeping where you are, it will change. And it will change however it's supposed to. It will rise up. I always like to use the example, and you'll see why, of a hot air balloon. You ever been in a gondola of a hot air balloon? Well, you've certainly seen them up there. Colorful, beautiful things. Well, if they're not floating up there because they got helium or hot air in them, it's because they're tethered to the ground. They literally call those things tethers. I like it very much. So basically, the gondola is tied with stakes to the ground. It's tethered. You can stand inside of that and think all you want what it would be like to fly, and put more helium in it, and put more hot air in it, and do all kinds of things, and talk to people about how come it's not going up. It's not going up not because of what's not in the balloon. It's not going up because it's tethered. If you cut the tethers, instead of complaining it's not going up, instead of putting more air in it, it will go up by itself, won't it? Because that's its nature. You are exactly like that. The spiritual path is exactly like that. It is not about trying to go up. It is about cutting the tethers that are keeping you down. You will naturally go up. Your natural state is higher than anything you could ever imagine. And that's where it will go. It will go to where you're not tethered. You will be an untethered soul. Okay? And that's where I want you to be. So if you untether these things, it will go up. That's what I'm talking about. Your concepts, views, opinions, habits are a very important part. Your weaknesses and your current strengths, and how you manage to get people to like you and how you manipulate things, those are strengths. You consider those strengths. They're going to go. Because if you go up, there's going to be a whole new situation to deal with and ways you look at things and so on. So it's a question of, are you willing to change? And you change by letting go of what's keeping you the way you are. That's how you change. The Buddhists say, work at the root. There's a reason you are the way you are. Things have happened to you. You've had pains and joys and this and that. I would like to quote Skinner. I hate to put the qualification on it. He says, man is the sum of his learned experiences. Well, I can't say that. My mouth won't say it because it's not true. Your psyche, your thoughts, your desires, your hopes, your dreams, your value, all of that is the sum of your learned experiences. You're the consciousness that is aware of that. So I can't say man is the sum of his learned experiences. I can say that your mind and your heart and all these patterns that are inside of you are the sum of your learned experiences. Basically, you're being held down by the sum of your learned experiences. Those are your tethers. I'm going to say that again. You're being held down by the sum of your learned experiences. It's not your fault. You had experiences that left impressions on you, and they are determining how you are, aren't they? They determine what you like, what you don't like, who you like, where you want to live, what you want to be, everything. You didn't just make it up. You've had experiences, and they left impressions on you. Now, somebody could sit there and say, well, isn't that the way it's supposed to be? For a human, yes. That is how it is for humans. For a spiritual being, of course not. You're a great being. The human part of your being is the sum of your learned experiences. And when you sit there and say, I'm only human, that's not true. You are the consciousness that is aware that there is a humanness here. There's a human body with all of its frailties and pleasures and pains. There is a human mind, which is the sum of its learned experiences, the personal aspect of your mind anyways. And there's a personal aspect of your heart that's been hurt plenty of times and has felt love plenty of times, and you're programmed accordingly. If you're in a relationship and you got hurt, whatever it was that happened that got you hurt, if it even looks like it might happen in the next relationship, you're out of there. If there are certain parts of the old relationship that you liked them, but the rest was a mess, and you go on a date and somebody's a little bit like that nice way, love at first sight. You're not making these decisions. They are programmed in you, and therefore your inner energies are behaving accordingly. And that's why you get attracted and repulsed and preferences and desires and likes and dislikes. It's all programmed into you by your past experiences. Fine, but that's not who you are. You are the consciousness that can be aware of this. So if you limit yourself to your past experiences, you're not going to change. That's karma. You're bound to your past. Your past is determining your future, your present and your future. So you're bound. Those are your tethers. Do you understand? I've defined your tethers. Those are your tethers. What? People don't like it when I say it. Your likes, your dislikes, your preferences, your desires, your fears, past experiences. They are your past experiences. They have taught you how to be afraid. They have taught you how to protect yourself. They have taught you how much joy it is to have this happen or that happens. You try to make it happen again. It's just your past programming that is determining the flow of your energy. Let's get spiritual. It's determining when you open, when you close, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're elated. It's all based on your past experiences. If you dated somebody in high school and the phone rings 20 years later and they say, this is your person that you dated from high school, and you liked the relationship, it was good, and it ended because you went to college, or you kind of realized this is not for me, and I tried to be nice about the breakup, but that's going to be a totally different person inside of you when you answer that phone. One person is going to be the next person is going to be Those are called your learned experiences. You won't accept that. You say, no, it's truth. It's not truth. It's not truth. And then if you're talking to the person that had been an awkward experience in high school, and 20 years later in your mind saying, what are you calling me for? I don't know. What's going on? Right? And all of a sudden the person says, God, I just ran into Sally, who was your best friend, and she's looking to find you. And we're friends now. All of a sudden you open. Now do you understand? I've never gotten to that level. That's what it means to be programmed by the sum of your learned experiences. Isn't that natural? I don't care if it's natural or not. The story I always tell, and you'll have to bear with me again, is you're 7 years old and you have an 8-year-old sister, and you're going on vacation with your parents, and you're sitting in the back of the station wagon, and you're playing. You're making games, I Spy or different things like that kids play with. And all of a sudden, your sister says, I spy a palm tree. And she points out the window. And you turn your head, and just at that moment, you're driving past a terrible accident. Body parts all over the place, and blood, and ambulances, and it's a traumatic experience to you. You've never seen anything like that. Can you get traumatized in that 1 second for your whole life? Well, what if your sister had said, I spy the white lines on the road, and you looked over that way? Now you're not traumatized. To me, that's an insult. The fact that your entire life was dependent upon a random event of looking out a window for a second, I don't accept that. You're the highest species on this planet, maybe in the universe. I don't know. Okay, we ain't found nothing else yet. We haven't found an amoeba anywhere else. So don't be getting all excited here. All I know is you are the most evolved species on this planet. Period. And that means you're adaptable. You're the survival of the fittest. Well, that's not very survival. That you turn your head for 1 second and it ruins your entire life, is it? I don't accept that. I accept that it happens, but you're higher than that. You're greater than that. So that shows you the sum of your learned experiences. That's a major problem. It's like a crapshoot. Here, you like somebody, and you decided you're going to go on a date together, and finally they're going to go out and we're going to camp together. And she likes camping, and you like camping, and oh boy, it's exciting, and it's raining. And she calls up and says, I don't feel like going. I don't want to go in the rain. All right, we'll do it some other time. And she never calls back. Just ruins your life. The rain ruins your life? How many examples do I need to give you of what it means to be the sum of your learned experiences? These things left impressions in you, and now you're a different person. Isn't it amazing? I just want to stop and look at you. You're going to tolerate that? It's crazy. How can you let your life just be so random? It rained. And you looked outside the window. Somebody didn't say hello. Who knows? Whatever it is. How about the fact that you really like somebody? You've been on 3, 4, 5 dates and you're going out together. You really seem to gel well. Everything is going well. And you think you know about them and so on. And all of a sudden somebody says, you're dating who? Paul? Paul Wilson? Oh my God, you better go talk to Sally. What happened to her? You don't even talk to Sally. The moment those words come out of that person's mouth, it's over. Anyone deny that? The sum of your learned experiences. Truth is, you didn't know it was April Fool's Day. And what they said wasn't true. There was no Sally. And by the way, if they said that to you and you started getting upset and they said, oh, he's just kidding you, it doesn't matter. That impression is still in you. Next time you see that person, your friend, Paul Wilson, you see him, I'm telling you, you're not as open. That's how sensitive and amazing it is that you are the sum of your learned experiences. Nowadays, we've got a whole lot of non-truth floating around, don't we? And somebody hears this, and even if they find out it's not true, it's still left that impression. They still have that negative taste impression inside of you, all right? I rarely stop like this, but this is worth it. Go to a fine restaurant. Really fine. They're probably French or something real elegant. And you're sitting there and somebody orders for you, okay? And they order a absolutely delectable French dish, okay? And a dish that you would love. And you're sitting there eating and say, oh my God, this is wonderful. What is this? And they say, worms. They said, oh, I'm just kidding you. There's non-meat protein, right? I'm telling you, you will never touch that dish again. Every time you chew on it, it will not taste like it did when you really liked it. Okay? Now you understand. I've said this before, and I never dwelt on it like this. Like, the sum of your learned experiences, OMG, that's dangerous. Because every single moment of your life, something's coming in through the ports of your senses. And they're all learned experiences. Okay. So you finally get up, and this is what it means to grow spiritually, to be ready to grow spiritually. It's to sit there and say, am I willing to objectively, from the seat of consciousness, look at that thing that I'm living with? What thing? The thing that is the sum of its learned experiences. And the truth for most people is, never. I'm right. I'm right. I wasn't born yesterday. Compared to the 4.5 billion years the Earth's been spinning around, you weren't even born yet. So you don't know nothing. But you won't accept that. You feel strongly that which you know is truth. Maybe you'll be a little bit open. Well, I could be maybe a little bit wrong. We can talk about it. No. You're totally wrong. Why? When you had that experience, how many experiences weren't you having? How many other experiences were going on everywhere that you were not having? Like 700 billion trillion? And you had this one experience, and it programmed you. Wow. And every moment, that's what's going on, isn't it? You're having one experience. You become the sum of that experience. Therefore, it's the sum of nothing. That experience is statistically insignificant. It's meaningless compared to all the other experiences that are just as real. They're happening just the same. You're just not having them. That's what you have in there. And someday you wake up and you realize, whoa, I'm in there with something that thinks it knows something when it can't possibly know anything. Because all it knows is 1 out of 700 trillion experiences that were going on at the same moment, every moment I have. Look to the left, you have a different experience. Just be with somebody who decided to tell you off. But just before they walked up to you, they saw someone they really respect. So they smiled and walked away. Then your whole experience changed because they saw somebody, all right? I tell this story of elections coming up. Well, somebody come to me and say, I know who's going to win. I know who's going to win the election. Really? I'm 100% sure. All my data lines up, 100%. Well, how do you know? I asked Sally, who's she going to vote for? See, 1-to-1, 100%, guaranteed. Oh, that's meaningless. You would never listen to such a thing. But you do listen inside yourself. And that's what you have, one vote. This is what it means to be ready to grow spiritually, is that you're willing to change. Now we're talking about big change, aren't we? You walked around your whole life thinking you knew what you're doing, thinking you were right, thinking you understood everything. Yeah, how could you understand anything? All you had was this one experience, every moment, one experience out of the billions that would be. But I read a lot of books. How many? I read 3 books a day. Okay, let's see, multiply that times 365, or I say you've read 1,000 books. How many books are there? On every subject. How many books are there? Big deal. You read a book. It's not impressive. I watched a movie. How many movies? I don't know what to tell you. All you're doing is picking up nothing and making your whole inner being out of the nothing, and then saying, I'm right, I know what I'm talking about, you're wrong, and I'll fight you to death. Spirituality starts with change. Now you know what I mean by change. I'm willing to look in here and realize this is interesting what's going on in here, and it's causing a lot of trouble. Let's start that way. To start with, I only want you to take on that which you know is causing you trouble, and you'd be better off if it was different. Eventually you'll get to everything, but don't worry about that. Don't let it be because I taught you something or some other teacher taught you something. I don't like that. You're in there, you're conscious, you can see parts of your being that cause trouble, can't you? Fear, jealousy, insecurity, manipulative, just, I don't want to say them all, you'll blush. You can see tendencies in there that are not so healthy. Who has said so? You did. That's what I want to start with. I want you to look in there and say, I would be better off if this wasn't that way in there. Is that fair? That's a nice spiritual teaching, isn't it? I would be better off if that wasn't in there like that. Okay, good. Then let's change. Now there's a reason to talk about it. This ain't so healthy for me. I'm eating food that's making me sick, and I know it's making me sick, and I keep eating it. Maybe we could work with that. I'm smoking cigarettes, and I've done it my whole life, and I just said, well, what the heck, you died or something, but now I'm dying. I get lung cancer. Maybe I should stop smoking. Yeah, I think maybe. There are certain things that you can see in there that are not questionable for you. Look in there, be conscious, be fair, and say, I would be better off if this was not in here. Not, I would be better off if the world adjusted itself to fit what I have in here. Notice that means I'm not going to change. You all change, so you fit me. Don't wear that. Don't say that. Don't act like that. Make sure you're home when I get home. Make sure you did this. Make sure it's that. Make sure everything's the way I want it to be, because otherwise I'm not okay. Therefore, I'm not going to change. Everything else must change. That's not going to cut it. I mean, it'll cut it just fine, but you'll suffer. You'll cause a lot of trouble in the world, and you will never change, and you'll cause all kinds of problems. So now we've got a solid foundation for spiritual growth. Look how I've defined spiritual growth. You looked in there and you saw what was going on in there that is not healthy for you or anybody else. And wouldn't it be nice if I could snap my fingers and it wouldn't be there? I don't do retreats. I don't do that stuff. But if I was, I'd have you take a piece of paper and write them down. You don't have to show them to anybody, but you write it for yourself. You want to write something in your diary? Write that. What if I could snap my fingers and it wouldn't be in there like this? Would I write down? That's a pretty nice list, isn't it? Those are the things I want to change. And those are your tethers. There may be tethers that are suppressed that you don't see, and psychology will help you with, and so on. But right now, these are the ones you see. That's a form of low-hanging fruit. In the living untethered, I talk about low-hanging fruit as being outside situations that bother you. It's the same thing inside. Are there things inside of you that bother you? And if you were to change inside, then they wouldn't bother you. They really have nothing to do with the fact that the outside is the way it is, other than you can't handle it. So we start with that. And that's what it means to grow spiritually. And I would be so satisfied, believe me, I would be so satisfied if every day you looked at one of those and said, okay, your day's a number. Say it nicely. Don't scare it. All right? Don't make it all get suppressed and scared. And just say, let's work on it. Let's make this the day of that. This is the day we're going to play with that. This is the day we're going to challenge that tendency that I have inside myself, which isn't your fault. It's some of your learned experiences. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel yicky about anything inside of you. Look at me. Don't feel yicky, guilty, shamed about anything inside of you. It is the sum of your learned experiences. If you had a different experience, it would be different in there. All right? So you look at it, but now you're awake. You wouldn't be here if you were not. You're basically in here because you want to change, because you understand that there's work to do. So you start off, it's almost like you should be happy if you find yicky in there. Because if you get rid of yicky, then you're not yicky. If you're perfect in there, but you're not as high as you want to be, oh my God, this is tough. But boy, you get this low-hanging fruit in here that you can start working with, and so you start saying, okay, I snack too much. I hate to talk about food because it's so meaningless compared to everything else. but let's just use that example. If I'm eating something I like, I eat too much of it. How do you know? I know I get a stomach ache. Okay, good. We got it down. Then would you like to change that? Yeah, I would like to change that. Okay, then let's change that. Don't worry about everything else. Just take on one. Look at it. I dare you to. Don't rationalize it. Don't justify it. Don't be afraid of it. Just say, we're going to have fun with this one. It's like a sport. And so you do little things. So you're eating and you would normally get more. Don't. Or if you have to, get half of what you normally would have got. You have to decide the level of discipline or effort that you are willing to put out to change. Could you go in there, like there are teachings that, traditional teaching, that teach you to do this, and say, this is a mess in here, I'm changing it all right now. You're not going to eat any more, you're not going to do It's called renunciation. Not I'm not going to eat more. If I like it, I don't know how to not eat more, I'm not eating it. I'm not eating what I like. I'll feed myself oats, raw oats like horses, because I don't like them very much, right? Or okra or Brussels sprouts, I don't know, something you don't like, all right? You're crazy to do that. If you do that, you will get scarred, and all of a sudden the concept of growing to beauty will be about this negativity, will be about darkness, that you hurt yourself. The Gita says one should raise the self with self, not trample down the self. That's my favorite lines. Now you understand what that means. And it says one should raise the self. So you look at it and you see there's this habit that's causing you a problem. That's what it is, a habit. You learned it, learned experience. You did it because you were nervous, and so you ate more, and next thing you knew, you're in the habit of doing this. So basically you look at it and you make it a game. You make it a dance. You make it fun. It's like a video game. And so basically you look at it and you just put out enough discipline to cause change. Like I said, I know I used to, if I was eating something I really liked it, I would take a little bit of it, push it aside on the plate, and say to Mickey, you're not going to eat that, and work with him. Anything you learn to work with yourself, which you can call it discipline if you want, okay? But I don't want it to be discipline. I want it to be fun. It's fun, like a sport. You have to discipline yourself to play a sport, discipline yourself to play the piano, right? But because it's really important. Let's say you really love the piano. I loved Beethoven, all right, but I don't play the piano. But I wanted to play Beethoven. I wanted to play Moonlight Sonata way back in college. And I don't read music. And so, because I wanted to, I used to spend hours sitting there memorizing, because I would just memorize a piece, until I could play the thing. It wasn't discipline. I'd sit there for hours, and the people say, how can you do that? It's not discipline. If you want to do it, it's not discipline. It's fun. It's exciting. It's challenging. So if I want to grow spiritually, and I want to change as much as I wanted to play Beethoven, or anything else, then the word is discipline, and I don't want you not to use it, but you see the difference that I'm talking about. You're inspired, therefore it doesn't feel like discipline. It feels like I'm working on something that I want to work on. And so you look at it and you say, this is what I'm going to do, and you put a little food aside, and basically, of course you're going to have resistance. Of course it doesn't want to put the food aside. What it? You as you are now. Your habit. That's what we used to say. There's habit-formed will and willful will, volition. There's habit-formed stuff in there, like a drug addict. They know it's ruining their life, but they're in a habit. It drives them to do it. So it's the same habit that causes you to eat that little piece that you put aside, okay? And so the question is, are you willing to work with yourself? Look, I spent years not doing it nicely. That's why I'm so strong about teaching you that you can do it nicely. One should raise the self with self, not trample down the self. It goes on to say something like, because self, which is self's friend, can become self's enemy. In other words, you can alienate yourself from yourself by doing this stuff. No. Understand, you looked in there, you saw that I would be better off, me who lives in this house, would be better off if there weren't roaches in here. And I'm leaving pizza crusts on the floor. So I don't like picking it up. I got used to throwing it down on the floor. But I would like to change this. And so you willfully, openly, lovingly start to do things like I'm talking about. So we talked about food. You could leave a little bit of something. So you put aside a little bit, and you look at it, and there's no way you can not eat that little bit, spoonful. Start whatever you can do. And then get comfortable with it. And feel proud of yourself. Okay, great. I left the pea. I used to eat more peas. I left one piece. I don't care what it is. That's for you to decide. It's not for someone to lay a trip on your head. That doesn't work. It's for you to look in there and see. Remember how we started this? Spirituality is about changing. Nothing grows and stays the same. Nothing. Growth means change, doesn't it? So if you want to grow, then look in there, see it is that needs to be changed, as you'd like to change, and work with it. But work with it lovingly, beautifully. You have to find your own balance. Like I said, each person is at different stages, not only different stages altogether, but about different things. Like you may have no trouble with food, but you have major problems with relationships because you don't trust anybody. Or somebody else has major problems with anxiety. Somebody else has major problems with fear of failure. Everybody's got their stuff. And in general, there may be areas that somebody's done with, but there's lots of areas they haven't even started to work on. And you know what they tend to do? They tend to take the part they're done with, that's called your strength, and try to guide life right there. I'm like the tennis player whose backhand is atrocious. I can't hit the backhand. So I hire a coach who's a forehand coach. And all the coach does is hit me different forehands, so I feel real good about my tennis. That's ridiculous. You're not going to learn anything, are you? You're not willing to change. It's the same thing here. If you have certain aspects of your being, maybe you're really pretty, maybe you're really handsome, maybe you're rich and you drive a neat car, maybe you're smart, really smart, and you impress people with how smart you are. Maybe you can put on a front so that you can see what different people like, and you're good at putting that out there so that people like you. Those are your strengths. That's just like playing only forehand. And what you would like to do is channel all of life and everyone in it where your strengths are. Okay? And you know what? You live in a world that will teach you to do that. I ain't teaching you that. Those are the things you're done with, more or less. You're further evolved in that area because you can succeed in that area. What about the rest? I hide it with my strengths. I've never talked to you like this. I hide the weak spots. What are the weak spots? The stuff you're not done with. The stuff you're not evolved with enough. I have a terrible problem with jealousy. So it's not like I show it and dump it on people because that doesn't work at all. What I do is just gently say, oh, darling, let's work at the same office. We can have lunch together all the time. OMG. We do that, don't we? So basically you look, and again, you look inside and you say, don't take too much. What would I like to change? And then you start working on what can I do to make these changes. Let's say you noticed that you have a jealous streak. Everyone does have something. I tell you right now, it's just a question of how much it runs their life. So let's say you have decided that I would like to work with that. Then when you go there and notice that you're about to manipulate somebody so that you protect yourself from your jealousy, now we're talking. You do what? You don't do it. He said it. That's equivalent to leaving a little piece of the food over there. You don't have to go too far. You just don't do that. You don't say those words. And it hurts. It hurts. The same as somebody who's addicted to heroin. If they try not to do the heroin, it hurts. It's very easy to say heroin's not good for you, but it hurts. And it feels good to do it. Unless you're willing to go through the withdrawal, and that's major withdrawal, okay, it's not going to change. It's the same thing here. If you keep reinforcing and protecting the parts of you that you decided I would like to see change, they're not going to change by definition. In fact, they'll get stronger because you protected them, okay? Spiritual growth is real. It's not some, let's have lights and auras and things. So we continue to talk about jealousy. For example, it could be anything. It could be anxiety. I'm anxious. I'm scared of failing. I have a lot of, everyone does, but stronger than normal. I have a fear of failure. So what do I do? When somebody says, who wants to volunteer? I don't raise my hand. No way I'm raising my hand. Because I know that if I raise my hand, at some point, I'm going to get anxious. And I'm going to get scared. I'm going to get scared of failing. And I don't want to put myself in that situation. In other words, I don't want to change. Isn't that what it means? I don't want to change. That's why I started the talk where I did. Growth means change. So you have to be willing to say, not that you take all this on at once. There's no way in the world. Don't even think about it. Remember what I said. Be kind to yourself. Look in there and see This is something that I don't want that in here. I have something I would like to change. I would like to change. I would like to feel strong enough to take on projects that I'm not sure I can do. It sounds like that would be fun, to face what I've always been afraid of. I'm not ready. I'm not throwing myself into it. Do I scar myself and freak out and then never do it again? You push yourself too hard, and the next thing you know, no, I tried that. It doesn't work for me. First of all, let's get something straight. This can't not work for you. If you want to change and you want to grow, then you have to be willing to look. I'm being very gentle with you. You have to be willing to look at the parts of yourself that you agree are causing a problem in there. Not to somebody else, oh, you shouldn't be like that. No, you looked in there and you saw this is causing problems for me and others. So now you said, I want to change. Fine. I told you how to change. You do not change by doing what it wants. That's called staying the same. You have to be willing to push the edges. These are your boundaries. This is your cage. You're locked in the cage of that which bothers you. Do you like it? Is that fun being locked in that cage? No, it's not fun at all. Unless you can hide and get what you want, get some place you can hide inside the cage. That's what you're going to do if you don't do what I'm talking about. So instead, you look in there and say, I'm willing to change, I want to change, I have the inspiration to change, I'm excited about changing, but I'm going to be wise about it. I'm not going to sit there and rip everything away and throw it all away and renounce everything and push myself into stuff that I'm not capable of handling. I'm going to take it on. This is the thing of the day, problem of the day, all right? I'm going to look at it, and the fun's going to be today. I'm going to volunteer once for the little thing, okay? Or I don't think it's fair if I have to do the dishes every time and somehow I end up with that and I have to sweep the floor, I have to take the garbage out, and other people should do this also, and it really bothers me. Okay, fine. So today I am volunteering to do the dishes. No, it's just a little bit. Today I'm volunteering to do the dishes. Today I'm volunteering for this. If you have that problem, you put yourself out, and it's going to feel yucky, and it's going to feel good. Because you pushed yourself past these habitual boundaries that you caught yourself into. The people who live out here and come regularly, I don't do much, but I do encourage them to come to morning and evening satsang. And I don't know if they understand why. Does it really matter that you do these particular chants? No. What matters is that you get out of bed every morning in the dark, and you get up at 5:30 or 5:45, whatever it is, and you make yourself come here. And then all of a sudden, after a certain number of years, you don't even think about it. You have no idea what you changed yourself. I have this word called spiritual extrapolation. It doesn't just change do you get up in the morning. It changes that you don't have to eat that little bit that you're overeating. As you practice will to overcome these tendencies that you're lazy or that you have trouble committing yourself or that you commit yourself. Some of you commit yourself for a while. It's not working for me. I don't like it. You're a quitter. Come on, don't blush. People are like that. And not just quitter on getting in the morning. Quitter on a relationship. Quitter on... Do you understand that? It extrapolates. So as you build the tendencies, the strength within yourself to where you say, this is something I would like to change. Not I need to. I would like to. Look at the difference. I need to. It's like mommy saying, you shouldn't have done that. You need to do this. Never yelling at you. No, I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be, I want to do this. I'm inspired to raise myself. So therefore I need to deal with this. And so you find the ways, you find the techniques, and you just see how you can, little by little, push the edge. If you stay within the boundary, you're not going to change. Why? Because you didn't want the discomfort that it brought about. I'm tired in the morning. I don't want to get up. I don't have to. There's no reason. Oh, okay, we're going to have a day off. If you say that, I'm going to feed my habit. Here, go to AA. I hope you don't have to, but if you do, it's a very good thing. Right? Go to AA and say, I haven't had a drink for a year. Now I'm going to allow myself to have one a week. Let's see what your sponsor's got to say about that. It's not going to work, is it? It's the same thing. So you sit there and you decide reasonably, I'm going to make this change. And one, there's going to be resistance. If there's not resistance, you picked the wrong thing. You went ahead and picked, I'm going to pick to change that which I'm already done with. So no, don't do that. Make sure you're picking something you would like to change that's causing trouble the way it is, keeping you from growing or whatever it is. Then you go about your business of doing it. And at first, there's going to be resistance. If there's not resistance, you pick the wrong thing, all right? What you're trying to do is change a habit that is not healthy, that is not helping you. And so there's going to be resistance to doing that. But you just commit yourself to it. And like I said, the strength you build by taking that on goes for everything else inside of you. Next thing you'll know, you can stop smoking because you got up in the morning enough times. It's not hard. Once you develop your will, you develop the commitment, you develop the strength inside yourself that says, you know what I used to say, that's your home. You live in there. He called it your kingdom. It's your kingdom. Nobody else is in there. Just you. You made the mess by not keeping it clean in there, by not dealing with things properly. Sure, you were a child. You didn't know how to do different. You had the different experiences. Fine. Now you're ready. You wouldn't be here if you're not ready. And so you take on every day and you sit there and lean a little bit into it and you tolerate that this is uncomfortable. Of course it's uncomfortable. And then what's going to happen is the strength that habit had. It has power. That weakness or whatever it is. It's going to transmute. That's a word I like to use. The power that habit had when you are strong enough not to suppress, don't suppress, to release, to gently raise it and say, I can get up in the morning. No, I can get up in the morning. Fun is fun. Be positive. Do something. That power that it had will go to you. And that's the truth. It's called the transmutation of energy. It transmutes from belonging here. If a drug addict is really strung up on drugs, they have major problems. They don't get much done. They don't work. They don't have a family. They don't have anything. And it's drawing all of their juice, all their Shakti, everything. Try to get drugs, try to take them, this and that. Now, if they go through withdrawal, all the power that was doing that is theirs now. It belongs to them. They can go to work. And believe me, they'll be very inspired. I beat this thing. Imagine how strong you feel. You hear me? And so basically, if you will work with yourself and raise yourself, you get stronger as it falls off. And that's called the transmutation of energy. And little by little, you just work with different things inside yourself. Not suppressing, not hating, not doing anything like that. I would like it to be done with inspiration, done because you want to. For the same reason when you want to play an instrument, you love what it sounds like. You love to be able to play and express yourself. This is a form of playing an instrument. You're playing the instrument of your inner self, how you can work with yourself. And what's going to happen is as you do this, you'll get stronger. And then what will happen? You'll be able to see the next layer of stuff that's holding you down. It won't be the obvious stuff that you've always known you should get rid of, but you can't. You work that through. The next thing you know, oh my God, I didn't realize I was doing that for that reason. Look at that. Wow. Okay, let's go. You take a deep breath and you start working with that. And it keeps going like that. You keep untethering yourself, keep releasing yourself. And every one of those that you drop, you get higher because the balloon starts to go up. And then you'll start to see some deeper things. That's wonderful. I mean, if you want to get high, what can be going on inside of you is a tremendous rush of energy pouring inside of you, raising up anytime you want. It just pours out of you. That is going on inside of you all the time. Why? Because you got rid of the garbage that was holding you down. That energy that is spiritual, that the Bible calls it the rush of holy waters. It opens up and you feel this energy. Well, where was the energy before? It was always there, but you were wasting it with all your low-level stuff. It was going into those energies and fighting, and you're fighting with yourself and struggling and suppressing. You're wasting your energy. You're wasting your Shakti, your Chi. As you release it, it will naturally come up. You don't have to make it. You don't have to do forceful exercise or stuff. It is a natural process of you working on yourself. Why? Because you want to. And guess what? It can't not work. If you're sitting there saying, it's just not working for me, you're not doing it. How can it not work? You're in there. You're the only one in there. Well, I want someone else to do it for me. That's like asking someone to eat for you. It's not going to work. I thought you loved me. It has nothing to do with that. That's not how it works. So you decide to do their inner work. This is yoga. This is spirituality. Not a type of... Notice I have not given you a technique. You'll have techniques. You'll try different things. But they're always about the same thing. They're about, I've looked in here. I see a tendency. I would like to work with it. Fine. So different people might suggest different things. You try, but at least you're always doing this. It's for that purpose of raising above that and transmuting that energy into spiritual strength. That's what you're doing. And then basically what you're going to find out, not only that it works, but all your stuff starts to fall off. And then you start realizing that you're no longer the sum of your learned experiences. Or if you are, it's these experiences that you learn from. Ultimately, your mind and your heart are going to be the sum of your learned experiences. But I can't explain to you what happens when that energy starts flowing. That becomes your learned experience. What's your learned experience? That I'm always in ecstasy. That I'm always happy. That I can handle anything that happens in life. How do you know that? I learned that. I learned that because the higher you are, the easier it is to not care what's happening out there. It can't hurt you because you already got everything you want. So you have tremendous, beautiful love, and you're sharing it with somebody, and they go through a space. They're cleansing. They're going through a space and not being real nice. It does not affect you one iota. All you feel is compassion and understanding. If they need to be alone, you let them be alone. Why? You don't need anything from them. Now, you may not like that about your significant other. They don't need anything from you. But you should, because then they're able to be filled and whole within themselves, and they feel tremendous love, and they're sharing their love. They're not needing you to be a certain way, and then the moment you're not that way, they don't like you so much anymore. They're having problems. This solves every single problem that can possibly exist. How did it happen? You worked with yourself as you let go of these blockages that were stored. And I said to you that it will naturally come up. Sometimes what will come up is what you learned from the past that caused it to be that way. You're nervous, you're anxious, you don't want to be close to people, and you don't know why. Not only do you not know why, you don't want to know why, you're just busy making sure they don't bother you. You put all your energy in manipulating the outside world to protect yourself. Now you start to let go, and you realize what's happening, and you're letting go, and all of a sudden, this incident from when you were 6 comes up. That really laid the groundwork for your insecurity. And you see it for the first time. I didn't know that was down there. Well, now you know it's down there, and it's going to hurt when it comes up. Why? It hurt when you put it down. It's stored with pain. It's coming back with pain. The difference is, because, you listen to me, because you left that little piece of food on the side of your plate, you're more tolerant and able to handle discomfort. Because you didn't act jealousy when it was bothering you, and you dared to just keep your mouth shut, not suppress, just to release, and then found out there was no reason for it, that this person really does love you, right? And just because they're dancing with somebody else, and then next thing you know is you just keep growing. I want to give you all examples, you get scared, all right? But basically, you start to realize, I can handle it. And remember, that's the mantra I gave you. I can handle this. I can handle it. It's okay. I'd rather handle it than be disturbed by it. But I'm not suppressing it. And then something comes up and it's really strong. It's a core thing of your learned experiences. And you're like, whoa, and it closes you and you're scared. That's what happens. That darkness comes up. And then you look at it and you say, come on up. Come on up. I don't want you down there. I don't care what it feels like. A guru once told me, when I was talking about some spiritual experience, and he said, it's the pain that ends all pain. Would you like to do the pain that ends all pain? Get it over with? So you never have pain for the rest of your life? It's going to come up. Welcome it. I say that in the new book, in Living Untethered. If it comes up, welcome it. Throw it a party. Just, oh my God, I miss you. You've been down there since I was 6. Oh, I'm so sorry. Come on up. Come into the sunshine. Hold his hands. Love it to death. Oh, if you can do that, it'll pass right through. If you're willing to put up with what it has to throw up, it is. It's painful. It hurt. I told you, some of that stuff you have in there, they're going to stop. It's like you were 5 years old, something happened to you. That's like taking a child and locking them in a closet, because you locked this thing inside of you. You locked a disturbance inside of you. That's not healthy for that child. The child was disturbed. Let's work with it. No, let's lock it in the closet for 20 years. Well, when you let it out, it is not going to be doing too well. It's the same. It's the same. That's what you did. It's not your fault. You're not conscious enough. You're not ready to deal with it. But that's what happened. So now when it comes out, deal with it like if you were the therapist, top-notch therapist, and you said, okay, this child opened the door, right? But he's been in there for 20 years, and it was put in there when he was really scared. Well, you understand, I got some work to do with this child. I need to be able to give it its space. I need to be able to handle the negativity that's throwing out. That's what's happening. It's going to come up. Your job as a conscious being who's trying to grow is to help that release. And you're not going to grab it and throw it out. You're not going to yell at it. You just, with compassion and with love, you raise it. One should raise the self with self, not trample down the self. It's deep stuff now, isn't it? And you'll just go through this process, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. Make sure you're staying centered and conscious enough to where you always feel like I'm working with it, and give it whatever time it needs. And you let go of the easy stuff, and then more stuff will come up. And I'm telling you, at some point, you'll be blown away at how beautiful you are. You're a beautiful being. Man was created in the image of God. That's how beautiful it is. I'm a nice Jewish yogi, and I love Christ's teachings. I only read the Bible once, 50 years ago, right? But the more I grow, the more I hear the teachings. As I sit by the throne of my Father, so you used to sit by my throne, and these things that I do, you should do these and even greater things. What do you think he meant by that? You're a great being. As I sit by the throne, the state of consciousness of God, so you shall sit by my side. That's what's waiting for you. That's who you are. That's what happens when the balloon goes up and it's colorful and you get to look over the countryside. Instead of being bound down there and caught in the bottom, you need to be willing to release. You need to be willing to go through the changes that are necessary. So are you willing to go through the changes? And don't ask me, how do I know which one to work with? You will know. It will be right in your face. You'd have to purposely ignore it to not know what you need to be working with. And if you'll just do this, that will happen. And you just keep getting higher and higher. And of course there'll be tough times. You got some tough stuff down there. But you love the tough times. A spiritual person who's growing, why do I just want to sit in partial ecstasy when I know how beautiful it can be and I still got this stuff down there? I'm going for the goal, man. Give me that ring. I'm not playing around. Set the pole star of your life. You're not there yet. Remember, we're not at New York. You just aim up. Aim up. As long as it's angled up and you're willing to go through the changes, you will change. So that's what we discussed tonight. Real spiritual change. All right. Work with yourselves. Jagged.